Good morning, it's Christina here. If you don't know me, I am a naturopath, herbalist, GAPS practitioner and a life coach, as well as business mentor for those who are in the healing arts. So, good morning. I hope you are having the most amazing day ever. It has been a good morning here. We've got a slow morning. Today's one of those slow days where my family is just waking up slowly. We still haven't done breakfast. We'll do breakfast soon, but we're just enjoying our day. So, I want to say hello and welcome if you've not met me before. My name is Christina, as I said. What I want to come and talk about today was I actually was listening to a podcast this morning. And as I was listening to the podcast, there were some things that came through for me. And that was that within this podcast, the individual was talking about eating food that feels good, like just starting to change our energy by just taking some simple actions and asking that question of like, what would feel good for me right now? What would make me feel good? And for me, this is like a super interesting area because, of course, this is the type of stuff that my book is about. So I'm writing Divinely Nourished at the moment, and Divinely Nourished is really about nourishing all of the parts of you, like nourishing your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, all of those things, like nourishing all of the parts of you, and actually untangling and unweaving the psychology of food and the psychology of our family history and the stories and all the things that actually keep us choosing the same foods that we keep coming back to, that keep us kind of stuck and keep us self-sabotaging. And so as I was listening to this podcast, one of the things that she said was that your body is trying to talk to you in a million different ways. It's trying to tell you a million different ways in a day what you should be eating. And I believe that to be absolutely the truth. The problem that I often see with my clients is that they've got a misinterpretation problem. So that their body is telling them, say, that they need magnesium, and they interpret that as eating chocolate. So, and it's not even that they're interpreting to eat like really good quality chocolate, that they're eating like crapola chocolate. So, hey Nicole, nice to see you here. So there is this interpretation problem that I see with a lot of my clients, is that they're getting the messages, but they're just misinterpreting them. So for example, their body might actually be asking them to eat fat because they're not eating enough fat, and their liver needs that fat in order to detoxify. And so instead of, choosing like some really good quality fats, like some animal fats, some avocados, some butter, those types of things, instead of choosing those, they might go for fried chips because that's in fat, right? And so their brain knows, I need this, but the interpretation based on their cultural conditioning ends up being something that's not going to be necessarily good for them. And so this for me is like this really interesting area to play with, of like the messaging that your body's getting and the interpretation space, because it's within there that we end up getting our wires crossed. It's within that little space between receiving the message and interpreting it that we actually get some misfiring or miswiring or miscommunication take place. And that generally happens based on our conditioning. So based on the conditioning that we've received as children, the conditioning that we've received growing up, the cultural norms that we live within, all of that type of stuff. Like, for example, had this great, I remember listening to one of my mentors speak about birthdays, and how what would often happen for him is that people would come and say, but it's just a special treat. It's like a one-off. You only do it every so often. But then what he said was, okay, let's get a calendar and let's work out how often this is actually happening, because there's this idea of like occasional foods, that you can have them occasionally, that they're not a big deal, and so on. So he said, let's just work out how occasional this is. So he got out a calendar and he said, so when's the birthday? So the child's birthday is here. And then when's the brother's birthday? That one's here. When's the sister's birthday? That one's here. When's mum and dad's birthday? That's here and here. When's grandpa and grandma's birthdays? Here and here and here and here. And where's Christmas? And where's Easter? And now where's all of the birthdays from all of the children that are in your children's birthday classes? And so, as you start to see that actually, instead of it being a once in a while or an occasional food, that it's almost turning into an everyday food, because it's like, yes, we're doing it for the birthday, but then we're at the shop and like they've been really good, so I'm going to give them this as well, and I'm going to give them this as well. And those occasional foods are not really that occasional. They actually build up. And that's a part of our cultural norms. Like our cultural norms is on your birthday, you eat crap, right? You eat those things that are not necessarily good for you, that it's just a special treat and it's a reward and it's those things. But it's not really a treat. It's actually really packed full of poison and what I like to term dog turd. It's packed full of those things. And how much of those things do you actually end up eating? And that's a part of our cultural norm. So if you are a parent, and this is what I see with a lot of my clients who are making really big dietary changes for their children in order for them to be healthy and well, if you are a parent who is consciously choosing what your children get to eat and really choosing not to participate in, you know, a high sugar diet, not participate in a lot of food colorings and preservatives and all of that type of stuff, you suddenly become the problem parent. You're the problem. Like, you know, can't you just let it go? Can't you just let them have whatever it is that they want to have and be free and all of that type of stuff? You become the problem parent, or you become a problem. They think that there's something wrong with you because you're choosing not to give your child those foods, knowing what you know. And what you know is that giving them those foods is not going to help them have the amazing future that you actually want to provide for them. And so there becomes this stigma, and there becomes this, like, it's almost shameful for some of my parents to, like, they feel this such a burden and such a shame around saying, no, my child is not going to eat that food. Like, we're happy to come to the birthday party, we'll pack all of our own food and so on. There's almost this shame around it, like they're hurting and injuring other people by choosing to be healthy. And it's really interesting in that that's one of those miscommunication areas of, like, our body is telling us what we need, but then our interpretation is different. So our body might be telling us that we actually need some comfort. And so we go Tim Tams. Tim Tams are comfort. But actually our body is saying comfort, and it's meaning food that's easy for it to digest. And the interpretation, that space between the message and the interpretation, is where all of our conditioning lies. And it's all of that stuff. It's the cultural norms of being the weirdo that's like hurting grandma and grandpa by not eating the pavlova on Christmas Day. It's, you know, the message of comfort food is food that makes you like sick, that it's full of chocolate, that it's chips, that it's this, that it's that. When comfort food is really, let's comfort my body and soothe it. Like, let's put in soups and stews and things that are really gentle on it, as opposed to things that are going to be hard and packed full of chemicals. It's the message of the magnesium being turned into the message of, now I need to eat chocolates in copious amounts, instead of hearing, maybe I could be eating cherries, which is a beautiful source of magnesium. It's in that space that actually I find a lot of the problems for my clients. And it's even with their hair tests. So I'll run a hair test for my clients to find out, I'll run a hair test for my clients to figure out, like, what are the foods that are not compatible with them. So we can leave those out and we can really focus in on eating the foods that are going to be great for them. And even with that, they'll say it's either, generally the foods that come up are either ones that they love, like they eat all the time, they love it so much, or it's ones that they don't really like anyway, or they already had a feeling that it wasn't so great for them, because their body is giving them those messages all the time. But sometimes it takes the piece of paper that says black and red foods to let them know and let them feel like, which are the ones that I'm like, yes, now I can see that my intuition is correct, but oh, hang on, like, there's some foods here that I eat like every day. And what is happening there is that messaging of, you know, some of it is self-sabotage. So their brain gives them messages that aligns to what they believe to be true about themselves, like they're not allowed to be healthy and well. They're not allowed to for some particular reason, like they may have orchestrated some belief around relationships, marriage, and health, and like, you know, the image that maybe they had of a mum is that she was always burning the candle at both ends. And so if I'm not burning the candle at both ends, I'm not a good mum. So I'm going to make myself sick. So like, I'm burning the candle at both ends. Like, there's all this messaging that comes up in there that makes people do the things that they do. And along with that, adrenaline plays a big role in it, because when we eat food that is not compatible for us or triggers an immune response, what actually happens for us is that our adrenaline kicks in, and our adrenaline spikes, and then that causes weight gain, which is one of the big problems for people who are gaining weight. They can be eating the healthiest diet on the planet. Like they could be eating, lots of fruit and vegetables, lots of great sources of protein, all of that type of stuff, but they're still gaining weight. And it's generally because some of the foods that they're eating are foods that trigger their immune system. And so the adrenaline spike happens, and adrenaline keeps weight on. Adrenaline keeps, especially in women, it keeps them holding on to weight. So their adrenaline spikes, and when your adrenaline spikes, you actually get a bit of a rush as well. So it is sometimes like a drug as well. So if you're eating food that is not great for your immune system that triggers it, then you're also can get addicted to that food because it creates this addictive spike with adrenaline. And, that rush is often what I see people doing when they are consistently eating food that they maybe have a sense is not great for them, but they love it, and they love it so much, and it's like their favorite. It's because it's giving them an adrenaline rush, and it's kicking in that boost of adrenaline for them, which is, similar to a drug cycle. So essentially what I'm getting to in this is that sometimes we actually need help in that interpretation space. In the space of when our body is saying this one thing and we interpret it as something else, that's the space where I work, and that's the space where you might need some support, because it's unpacking and it's unraveling and untwisting and unlooping and tangling the messaging that actually helps us to listen to our intuition and actually follow it through in a way that's healthy and well for us, that really congruently makes us healthy and well, as opposed to I'm following my intuition and it's telling me to eat chocolate, which I'm not saying chocolate's a bad thing. I'm saying you probably want to pick really good chocolate, and maybe cherries are a better option for you. That's the space that I see people getting struggling when it comes to actually changing their patterns and their self-sabotaging and changing and making the changes to be healthy. Losing weight is one of them, but it's actually about being healthy versus just losing weight. Losing weight is the inevitable outcome of being healthy. So we want to focus on the being healthy, and what would make my body feel good, and how would that help support my body in a beautiful way. And sometimes we don't know the answers to that. Sometimes we don't know the conclusions, and that's where we actually need to seek the help. So that's my message for today. Remember, it's more than just about the food. It never has always ever been just about the food. Hey, Anita, nice to see you here. It's never always been about the food. It has always been about the messaging. The food is just a micro part of it. I can get your diet absolutely on point for you, but if you can't do it because the messaging in between receiving the message and taking the action, if that messaging in there is out of balance, if it's out of wrong, you will keep the self-sabotaging cycle happening. You will be drawn to the foods that make you sick. You will be attracted to the things that are not going to keep you healthy and well, because your messaging, the cultural norms that you're living in, and all of that other icky stuff is still there. And it requires changing those and changing your own mind about what you believe to be true about yourself, that actually creates the lasting results, which creates you being able to make these really great messages. So the interpretation of the message and the outcome is not messed up. It actually becomes this nice, clean, clear signal where your body tells you what it needs, and you're able to respond to it in a beautiful, healthy way, because that space, the stuff in between, is all nice and clean and clear, and you're always doing that. We're always untangling that space. It never is completely done, but you can get to that space where it is nice and clean and crisp, and you can hear the messages effectively, like, hey, I've got some muscle cramps, might be time to eat some more cherries. All right. If you want to learn how to do this for other people, you're more than welcome to come and join me for Coaching Academy. If you want to do this for yourself, you're more than welcome to book in with me. We can do some hair testing. We can figure the stuff out for you and get you on the road. But it's really in the mind that we actually create the results. All right. Have an amazing day, everyone. I hope you have a glorious day. It's going to be nice and sunny. We're going to go swimming. Bye for now. See you later.